All right, so now we're still doing horizontal analysis, but we're looking at the balance sheet. And I actually wrote it all out so we don't have to waste time doing that. But the formulas are the same, current year minus the base year divided by the base year, or if you think better this way, you can use that one. So let's just look at what we do. You're setting it up. You get your current assets, your planned assets, and if you were doing this with an actual financial statement, you would have each, all your current assets, each one itemized so you could analyze it. And actually, in reality, if you're doing this at this point, you just, go to the company on, the company's financial statements, and a lot of times they'll have this set up so that you do not have to do all these calculations. We're doing them on a basic level so that you understand how they work. But in reality, chances are all these percentages would be provided to you and you can just analyze them. Okay, I guess that's the good news. All right, so we got current assets of 125, and this is 2020, the most recent year. 2019 is the earliest year, so that would be the base year. So we're going 125 minus 100 gives you the change, and then the percent change, you're doing 25 divided by the 100, and you get 0.25. Or if you do it this way, you would take the current year of 125 divided by the base year of 100, and you would get 1.25. And with this one, you'd say, yes, our current assets increased in 2020 are 125% of what they were in the base year. Here we're saying between 2019 and 2020, there was a 25% increase. Okay, so we would do that for each item. You get the actual change, current year minus the base year, and then each time you're dividing the base, you're dividing the current year minus the base year divided by the base year. Okay, so you're taking the change divided by the base year. Okay, so now let's look at this and see what happens. Well, let's see, total assets, if we don't look at the, percentages, our total assets went up. That's really good. And, our total liabilities, they went up as you might expect. And, our stockholders' equity went up and our total liability, everything is kind of on a good trajectory. Great. All right, but when we put it into percentage terms, we can look into it a little bit more and see that maybe things aren't so great. Or possibly, all right? So our current assets increased 25%. Our planned assets went up 20%, and our total assets went up 21%. So that's okay. But then let's look at what happened in percentage terms to the liabilities. Our current liabilities increased 30%, and our long-term liabilities increased 40%. It's a 40% increase. That's taking on a lot of long-term debt there. And maybe stretching our payables. Then, look at this. Common stock. We issued 40% increase in the common stock we have outstanding. We issued a lot of common stock. And then retained earnings, a decrease of 9%. Retained earnings went from 150 to 136, a decrease in retained earnings. Now what's retained earnings? If we remember our retained earnings, we start with our beginning retained earnings, we add net income, right? We deduct the dividends, and we get our ending retained earnings. So our ending retained earnings, this is where our net income comes in. So we probably want to take a look at the income statement and see what happened here. We had a decrease in our retained earnings. And, okay, so total stockholders' equity, just a 12% increase compared to, And so when you get to something like this, you can see the company is issuing a lot of stock, taking on long-term debt, maybe stretching their current liabilities, paying them later and later. And what do they use? Well, they're buying a lot of assets, but there's no net income to support all this that we can see. So at first glance, the company looks really shaky, and you'd say, oh, well, that's not good. But this is where you have to look at where the company is in its life cycle. If this were a startup company, Well, a startup company wouldn't have a lot of net income. So this would be kind of normal for a startup company. They wouldn't have a lot of net income, but they'd be buying assets, to get set up. They'd be taking on debt. They'd be issuing a lot of stock. And so you might not want to run and hide from this company. You'd say, oh, okay, if you regard the potential as being good. However, if this were a company that had been around for a while, if this were a mature company, a company that, had been operating for 10 or 15 years, and you saw something like this, you'd really want to run away fast, okay, probably, unless there was you'd at least want to look for a reasonable explanation for what's going on. But you can see where looking at the raw numbers, that can be helpful, but it's far more helpful when you can put them in terms of percentages. Whether you're analyzing a company to invest in it or work for it, or whether you're running a company and you want to see what all your various, departments and divisions are doing. Okay, so that's your horizontal analysis of the balance sheet. And so next we'll look at our vertical analysis.